start it off and go with it.
So what are we gonna name it? What should we name it?
I don't know. Just record it. And then we'll name it. You say, I don't know. Are you gonna make it a thing that you do at derbies regularly?
Okay, so all right, so we can start doing this regularly at derbies, right?
You just go to a derby and get a guest to sit down with you. And
I didn't start the bar real high, did I?
no.
Or is the bar real high?
I mean, anytime you ever watch a pilot, it's really not that good.
Okay, so we just got to start.
Yeah. That's a
right.
pretty good start right there.
Yeah.
You're talking about anytime you watch a pilot, except you up recording it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am.
She's
Oh, yeah.
recording the whole time.
Okay, good.
So this is great.
Yeah.
So, all right, so we got Anthony Wallace here. You are with Track Shot Live this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
You are the man behind the multimedia.
I am.
How many derbies you been to this year already?
Somewhere like 30. I made it a real point this year that I was going to keep count of all the shows I went to. And it didn't.
Kentucky boy like you ran out of fingers and toes.
Well, I tell you what I wanted to do was save all my wristbands. I thought that would be really cool.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Save all my wristbands and put them in a big frame.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Just
like
to
a little
write down
collage.
on the show what it was or whatever. Just something from every show. And my
Right.
wife said that was absolutely disgusting.
What?
She said they would stink and all that, and they get wet. I don't know.
I don't. She's not for the
But
brand.
she wasn't gonna let me frame something that stinks up in the house. I guess. What
She,
it boiled down
we're
to.
going to have to get her to be with the brand. She's not for
She's
the
not a
brand.
brand builder. She's
Not a brand
She's
builder.
kind of a celebrity in our hometown. She's a teacher,
Oh,
and you know everybody knows her.
She keeps everybody in line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
part of it.
Maybe just make it like a plexiglass box or whatever, so you just like come down.
Oh, there you go. Like
That's a
like
good idea.
them women that love wine. You know, every wine, but they got a little thing on their kitchen counter. They put the wine corks in.
Yeah, just fill it up.
Yeah.
Fill it up with stinky bracelets.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how many bracelets we'd had over the years?
Oh,
You
yeah.
started it when you were younger.
Yeah, I could never fathom when I was a kid talking about these big derbies, and to me there wasn't big derbies. I mean, there was when Metal Mayhem come around, that was
The Derby.
the derby.
Yep.
And then the next one I saw was the Greeley Stampede out in Greeley, Colorado, and I got to go there this year.
I've not been to that one.
It's a show, man. 9,000 people, sells out.
That's a bucket list, hopefully for next year. I
Yeah,
think.
it's great people out there, the Franks, and
Yep.
Frank family does huge things. They do huge things for that show out there, and got to go to Utah this year. That's another place you got to go check out. And California is amazing. Northwest Washington, talk about going out west.
Well, now I've been out that way for work, not derbying, but for work, and you get out of central Indiana and you get out there in that Pacific Northwest.
Yeah,
The terrain changes. It's just a beautiful area.
it's beautiful. I mean, of all this year going to derbies and doing the destination derby thing with Track Shot, Yosemite's definitely been the coolest.
Yeah.
Yosemite's been one of the most just unbelievably beautiful places I've ever been.
Right. There you go.
And we still got a week, Track Shot. We got a week in South Dakota coming up.
Oh yeah, for
With
Gold
Ultimate
Rush.
Derby, We Crash TV. Still got next weekend. We're going to San Filippo Smash, the last Smash there in New York.
Yeah, that's one I always wanted to get to, but it's just not going to happen. We've been doing a lot of travel ourselves,
Yeah.
and not going to make that one this year.
Yeah, it's been a wild run this year for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely be watching it on Free 99 next weekend.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. That's our favorite show. Those people up there love Track Shot Live. They just love Track Shot. I couldn't believe it when they told me, but I didn't believe it, and I was new.
And then you get there, and it's like,
Wow, man.
Yeah.
These people really believe in what we're doing here.
Yeah. Well, just looking at the cars that they have on years past, they love to crash cars too.
They love to crash anything. They got full-size vans coming. They run full-size vans up there. Yeah, they don't care what it is, man. They'll wreck it.
Well, I seen they were also like a mid '80s G bodies. I've seen they're having a class like that where it's like a
78 up muscle cars.
Yeah.
That's gonna be cool.
Yeah, that's gonna be different. That's gonna hurt somebody's feelings.
It is.
That's all right too.
Yeah, there's some serious. You see, Jason Dro's got a Corvette he's bringing.
I did.
Yeah.
I seen a video of that where he was driving it by a little handheld throttle wire, playing with it.
Wouldn't
driving
surprise
it.
me if Jason did something like that at Derby. Jason's just that kind of guy.
Yeah,
He's
I
crazy.
seen him driving that on Facebook.
Yeah, Jason likes to party for
Yeah.
sure.
So how long have you been derbying?
I started I think I ran my first Derby in 2000.
So You've been derby just a few years longer than I have.
Yeah, I think it was 2000. I was 17, I think, when I got my first car and had no idea what I was doing. Not that I put one piece of half-inch all thread through the deck lid. I went to Pizza Hut at like 2 in the morning to steal a milk crate for a battery box. It had points in it. Luckily, I had a friend that somehow had learned mechanics by that point, and he could change the points out for me. It was a 71 Chrysler New Yorker, and I didn't do any good. I've never done good in a big car, ever.
Yeah.
Anytime I've ever been in a big car, I've never done good.
You're a mini car guy at heart.
I love mini cars. I love the small cars for some reason.
Yeah.
But now I don't even care. I mean, I never was a good derbier anyway, but now it's like what we're doing with the social media.
Mm-hmm.
That's been the best part that's come out of derby to me, is because when I was a kid, I had that drive to see the cars, and back when the sport was nothing, you know.
Right.
And now I can make sure that there's kids that don't have that, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
They can get on here and see the content, so that means more to me anyway.
Well, and this year was a first for me. I'm not a mini car guy.
Yeah.
And I rode passenger one with a youth kid. That was entertaining.
Yeah.
I mean, it was honestly, I think I had probably more fun than he did.
Yeah.
He was out there. We wheeled her down to second place. He drove wheels off that thing. And
So you weren't having to coach him. He knew what to do.
oh, this was like his fourth derby.
Oh, wow.
And I told him, I was like, he asked me, he's like, Mr. Creator, do you ride passenger with me? And I was like, absolutely. What we ride in? He goes, front wheel drive. I said, I don't do mini cars. He goes, well, I normally got a rear wheel drive setup. I guess he's got Vic with 4.6 stuff and all kinds of that.
That stuff's taking off, man.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of cool now that the kids, you know, the wiring and all that's changed with the times, but now the kids have a motor like, you know, the small block was in our era.
Yeah. They got 4.6 setups.
They got the
Just get
4.6
with it.
and they're getting they've got something they can set up stock in a car and just go. you
Yeah.
know. That's
Yeah,
real cool.
Well, we was down there at that derby Robbie puts on there in Kentucky, and that's where I rode
Oh, yeah.
pasture with him, and it was
I was somewhere that weekend and couldn't make that show. I would
was a
love
good
to have
show.
came. I'd love to have went to that.
it
But
was a real good show.
yeah, we'll be back up there over a couple weeks, Germantown.
Yeah, I'm debating about dragging a car down for that or not. I need to find a place to finish off that Frank the Tank ride I got from you last winter.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that'll be cool.
Yeah, it's hurt pretty bad after Frank the Tank.
Yeah, that Frank the Tank class is rough.
Yeah, it was, you know, most people that have seen me derby, I'm usually not a wide open kind of guy or
Yeah.
a real aggressive kind of guy until I have
Not-
to be.
I'm not either at all.
And signing up for that class was way out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, but you got what, third?
I think I wheeled her to third.
Third place, yeah.
I mean, second shot in, it seemed like I took a wheel shot.
Well, I mean, you're talking third place in one of the hardest hitting classes in the country for a stock car, and then you're in a 70s Ford.
yeah.
So when you start adding in the factors, it's a pretty big deal.
I mean, we were just checking bucket list items
I mean,
off
yeah.
of that one.
Yeah, it's just
I mean,
rapid.
70s Ford, who takes those,
Sure.
right?
Yeah. Anytime I ever thought of somebody doing good in the 70s Ford, it's Don Santo.
Well, I
He
mean,
kind of had that
you
reputation.
put that guy in a shopping cart, and he's going to
Yeah,
probably
he's gonna win.
podium finish somewhere.
He's gonna win.
I mean, he's just a wheelman himself.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
no,
he's
that
a
was a
driver.
good time. I think we're going to try to go back next year around me another 70s Ford. Honestly,
That'll be fun.
yeah.
I enjoy the bash. I love the whole party. Everybody
Oh, yeah.
talking, cooking out, having fun.
That's the best part about those big derbies like that, where they're multiple days.
Best part of bash is the biscuit and gravy your wife fixed.
She did, yeah.
Those sweetest biscuits I ever had. Sweetest biscuits and gravy.
Yeah, she's got sweet biscuits, that's for sure.
Sweet biscuits.
Yeah, I don't complain.
No.
So, but yeah, going to those big derbies like that, whether, like when they had the Vegas Derby, we flew out there for 3 days of derby.
I'd love to watch that show, but at that time we didn't have Cannonball Derby parts, and I was still buying junk cars or doing whatever.
Yeah.
I wasn't involved in, being able to be involved with the sport now. And Vegas really started that. Vegas kind of started that. Decker was involved in that.
Destination Derby thing.
Yeah, and it just started. You look back at history, the national shows after Vegas started multiplying.
Yeah, you had your 2 or 3, right? Your big ones.
Well, you put a derby in a place where there ain't no derby people. It's kind of like right here, what Brian England's doing right here in Mississippi.
Yeah.
He's bringing, it's the second, third, well, he's had this show a couple of years, but, I mean, he's bringing Demolition Derby to a place that it didn't exist.
Right. And
That's a pioneer as far as I'm concerned.
yeah.
And
Of
growing.
course, we're here behind the 8 ball a little bit with the weather, and
Well, a little rain,
A
but
little rain, it didn't hurt nobody. You know
No.
the best part about rain on the Derby day?
what's that?
You don't have to water the track.
You don't have to water the
And
track.
then you don't have the crowd being mad at you for overwatering the track.
I always thought the worst
you can't
part
control
of
it.
No, you can't control it. That's right.
So it's like, hey, it's one less thing you can get yelled at today.
Absolutely.
As
Yeah.
you know, I've promoted and done that, you know, my hometown shows. And
That's a load off the promoter for
yeah,
sure.
it's one less thing you can get yelled at for the weekend.
Yeah, I hate it for Brian though, because he's kind of going, really stepping out of anybody's comfort zone in a state where there's no, we're talking a couple hours probably to the first competitor that's running here,
Yep.
and he's trying to bring that into his area.
Right. We canceled one show. It was a fall show we had one year. We had to cancel it due to rain, but the track had almost 8 inches of water sitting on it. And you hate to cancel it because you know you're at the end of the year. All
Yeah.
the guys are
Everybody wants to
bringing
clean it up.
cars. Everybody's trying to come run one last time. And you're like, I can't put a derby on. I
No.
can't get the water off the track. And you just hate doing that to guys that have been, getting things straightened back up from fair shows and summer shows to finish one off, because not many people like to have something sitting around all year, all
No.
winter long.
You got to store it. I mean, even if you get your drive train and stuff out and stick it in the corner,
You're still,
better than leaving the whole car.
yeah, and we've all pulled drivetrains out of pre-rains and tried to put them back in. They don't ever go in the way they come out.
Nothing's going back the way it's supposed to.
No, and it turns into one of those where it's almost faster just to build a fresh car than it is try to put everything back in a pre-ran.
I see a lot of those guys that don't have setups, and they run a show, and they got this other big show there, so they run the one and yank the drivetrain and pull all their bolt-ins out. I would hate to know that I just took the car apart that had life left in it to go
Yeah.
back and put it back together later on.
It's where we're at with the Ford from this summer.
Yeah,
It's like it's hurt, it's halfway fixed, but where to take it's limited. I'm gonna have to have all the stuff back out of it for next year.
yeah, and I mean, even at that class in running 70s wire, still the drivetrain, the bolt-ins, that's some money.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got a pretty big investment there to have 2 setups, even on a full-size stock class.
Yeah,
I mean, a wire is it wire? Is that a wire class, or can you weld?
you can weld the driver's door, but everything else
That's
got to
it.
be wired.
So it's pretty much a wire class then.
Yeah, it's that 70s old school wire style
Yeah.
stock build.
There's a lot of people who do a lot with wire, with 9-wire. I mean,
Seeing,
Robbie Crittenden's one of them.
Yeah.
He's taught me a lot about working 9-wire.
yep. See, my 035 identifies as 9-wire.
I get that. It's your pronouns.
Yes,
Pronouns.
it's easier that
9-wire.
way.
Yeah.
And you can just hit the trigger,
035.
hit the trigger and melt that in.
Burn it down.
It beats, getting all dirty from 9-wire.
Yeah, for sure.
How many times have you twisted 9-wire and you got it right where you want it? You're like, oh,
But you always know.
You put one more turn on it, you're gonna
You
break
always know.
You
before
break
you
it every
break
time.
it.
But you know it.
You know it's coming. Like you're right there, and you're like, okay, I'm at that point, and you have to add that one more twist.
But we still do it. Then you got to
still
start
do it.
over.
You start over.
Yep.
Ping. That's the worst.
Yeah, and then you got like you run a big show, like for example Mayhem that's running this weekend right now, unlimited 9-wire after a heat race. And then you got guys. How many of them guys you seen just buy rolls and just stuff rolls in places?
Yeah, I've seen that. I don't know that I'd want no part of that.
Oh
but,
man.
I wonder. Tell me your opinion on this. I've said this to a lot of people, and I've tried. I was hoping that someday I'd get traction on it, but I never have. Why are we not getting rid of some of this 9-wire stuff and letting them use steel cable?
That's a good question.
Why are we not? We set the size on it.
Yeah.
Your 9-wire's not gonna break or whatever. You pull it tight, then you can undo the 2 nuts, take your clamp off, and go again. You can recycle it. It's easier to feed through. It's gonna be stronger or as strong. I mean,
yeah. Like say if you let somebody have like maybe 1/4-inch cable.
yeah,
I mean, because 1/4-inch cable is pretty much the same overall size as 2 to 3 strands of 9-wire.
sure. Yeah, or whatever size. I mean,
Right, you know what I mean? Most places, the rule of thumb is what, two runs of 9-wire?
2, yeah,
So let's go 1/4-inch cable.
yeah. I don't know. I've always wondered that. Why?
Yeah.
I used to, when I was running like escorts and all that stuff, back when I first started out, we didn't have there was no real parts out there. I mean, this was probably before the slider shaft came out, really.
Right.
And I would do that. I would use steel cable because I could just undo the 2 bolts and the 2 nuts, and I had it tie my next door post shut or whatever.
See, we would take 3/8 chain
Long bolt,
and
draw it tight.
piece of 3/8 all thread.
Yep.
You know, you'd run cut you 2 holes, run your chain through, and then you'd put your all thread on the inside of the car.
Yep.
You know, and just pull her tight.
Now I've seen some guys do some cool stuff with some cable and 9-wire and turnbuckles.
Oh yeah, especially you get into these national shows.
Oh man, it's disgusting. I'm like,
It's
how did
impressive.
you come up with that? And then how did you do it so cleanly?
Yeah, we started. You know how most shows will let you run 9-wire down around the frame.
Yeah.
Well, what we would do is we'd weld a piece of small tubing on the side of a cage bar and drop a piece of all thread down through it, weld a nut on the end of that all thread, and you'd loop your 9-wire down around the frame through that nut, and then you could run an impact to pull that all thread up, kind of like a turnbuckle does. Versus sitting there trying to twist your 9-wire in the car, because you know that's the other thing with 9-wire. You're trying to get a bar in there to twist it and whatnot, and you never have enough room to get you a good twist.
You know, you just gave me a great idea. Talking about the social media stuff, I don't mean to change the subject, but somebody needs to document that. You know how much stuff has been forgotten? One thing I always think about was when the first time I ever saw washers on a steering column to drop the column down to give it more of an angle for the car
Yep.
student.
Yep.
How much of our history in demolition derby has been lost because it's passed away?
Yeah.
The people that had it passed, or the old tricks that they did years ago, like stuffing rags and shocks. I mean, there's probably a lot of kids that's never even heard of that.
Right.
That's a common.
Yeah, the stiffen
But
up the rear
how cool would
shocks.
that be? You know, make a little video series. Give us your best old school. What is something you used to do, or a little
Yep.
trick you knew, or you know?
Well, that's like back when we ran stock wheels, you know, before wheel centers and stuff like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
You know, you'd do 2 half-inch washers on each lug nut stud behind the rim, because it'd give you that extra little 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch
Yep.
to keep that rim away from the spindle and the ball joint.
Yep.
You know, and it's just, hell, I don't even do that anymore.
No.
I mean, I think that falls into some of the things you were talking about. Like
It's
that,
gotten.
I don't even do it anymore.
I mean, it's when it comes to certain things, it's gotten pretty cookie cutter.
Oh,
And some of the build class. Not to say guys aren't pushing the envelope and still developing.
Oh, there's still
new
creativity
things,
out there.
but now, you know, used to you didn't. Guys were just building whatever they could get.
Yep.
Different cars. And now you've had 10 years where a lot of guys ain't built nothing but Crown Vics, or maybe more.
Right.
Nothing but Fords.
Yep.
So
Well, it's the, you know, that's the thing too, right? The cookie cutter side of it is once you get your setup built.
Yeah.
That's kind of like with me. I've been running Vicks for years. Then I went to that 70s Ford. There's a lot that from my square body Vic days you could put towards that car.
oh yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
You know, you can't throw the 03 suspension, anything from the 03s towards it.
Yeah.
But, you know, the square body Fords, there's still quite a bit that you could
Yeah, I mean,
use
that-
in that
When it comes
area.
to full size Derby, this is the car that it's going to end with. It's going to end with the Crown Victoria.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. I mean, that's the end of the full frame cars. So, you know, and they're getting the most of them probably ever produced right here at the end.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat.
Yep.
You know, the biggest opportunity to run those cars and Lincolns, and they make an 09 to 11 Lincoln. Did you know that?
We learned that,
We learned that the
that
other
road
day.
tripping this week, didn't
Yeah.
we? Because neither one of us could think about when the last year's Lincoln was made.
Never seen one. Never seen.
I don't know that I've ever looked.
I don't know that I've ever seen an 03 up Lincoln.
Oh, I wanted Mayhem in 03 and up.
Really?
That's my first.
Lincoln.
That was, yeah.
I don't
06
know
Lincoln.
why. I'm sure I have. I've just never paid attention.
Yeah.
I never thought about it.
I had the executive series. It was 11 inches longer in the back doors.
Huh.
Had to have an old iron slider.
What's the one that's the government? The government was the, like the senator type car or something.
That's what this one was. You could see it. Like in the floor pan, there was a section of 11 inches wide where it was a seam and a seam where they'd extended the rails, the back doors, everything. You could see it in the floor pan.
So that's the car, the executive series.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted with Mayhem in that.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty prestigious.
Yep.
I mean, I didn't know I was sitting next to a badass
Y'all know me, right?
Metal Mayhem champion.
Well, it was just one of the filler classes.
Still, it's Mayhem.
Yeah, it was the.
I mean, it's like if you go to San Filippo, it doesn't matter what you win or bash. I won the bash, whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what, you know, nobody cares what class.
Yeah.
It's just that they know that those are some of the most prestigious playing fields, you know.
Yeah, it was a good show. It was all during the whole pandemic, and they had the whole pandemic in Portland.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when it was in Portland, Indiana, there that year that Jack Fissler had it.
Huh.
It was Mayhem and Spring X combined.
Yeah, where they remember how they had to combine it all because
Yep.
of the pandemic and all that.
Yep, I do.
Yep. It was pro stock class, and then there's like 30 cars.
Wow.
And then
That's a good feeling.
yeah, it's definitely a feat in itself at times winning a national show, no matter what class it is,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of good competition in all those.
Well, it's the best of the best at that
It
time.
doesn't matter if you're running mini cars or full-size cars or trucks, vans.
Yeah.
Guys that go to those shows are not typically guys that, well, some people like to call booger eaters.
No.
They're there for a reason.
I mean, when I think of that, that type of show, there's guys like Bobby Whitaker that is just as humble. Every time I've ever met him, he's been so humble and nice.
Yep.
And
Don't try to interview that guy.
I have interviewed him once. Well, me and Tix, but
He don't like to be on camera.
does not like to be on camera. We called him once out at Gold Rush last year, and Tix got an interview with him, and but man, that guy he's just one of those guys. I mean, he's a legacy, obviously, but
He's one of them guys that
he doesn't talk crap, but he can back it up. I mean,
he just pulls in, and you're like, well, there's a guy you may have to beat to get it done.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
I just went into second place. Yeah.
Well, because he's been around, his setup's figured out.
Oh yeah.
He's got all the bugs worked out. He's one of them guys that it's like probably got to deal with him at the end.
Did you go see him in a wagon or a HD?
Mm-hmm.
I think pretty much is the two.
Yeah,
That's his choice of cars.
Yeah. That's like what really threw a lot of people for a loop was that year. It's been years ago when he went to Mayhem, had that sedan, and then he had the wagon.
Yep.
And went mad dogging with the sedan and
Yeah.
took the wagon to the feature.
I remember that. Yeah, he's one of his dad was actually one of the first big guys that I'd ever heard of. And I don't know if it was the documentary that the Shooties were in, but the Shooties and the Whitakers were the first. They were on some Discovery Channel documentary or something I saw as a kid.
Yep.
And I got to meet Ryan Shooty and actually became friends with him up there at Throwdown, Minnesota Throwdown Texas show. It's happening this weekend.
Yep.
And he was there last year, and I was like, man, it's like an honor to me. He's like, what? I was like, you're like an icon to me, dude. You were the big time back then.
You're somebody.
Yeah. He gets tickled, but I mean that whole family, they shaped the sport in their own way there in the north. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I've met a lot of guys like that now. I mean, I've met a lot of. I was at, the guy's younger, but Floyd G, you know who he is?
Yeah.
Out of Arkansas.
Yeah. Yep.
And I get tickled. He was out there and he said something. I said, hi. I'd never spoke to him, but he knew I was. I knew who he was. And he said, you know who I am? And I was like, yeah, Floyd G. And he's like, I can't believe you know who I am. And I was like, you're so dumb. What are you talking about? You're one of the best car builders out there. Like,
Yeah.
Yep. And that was getting to meet those people. It's been really cool.
Yeah, he was helping. We were over at Spring X this year, and some friends of ours that we've met from TikTok and whatnot. She was on a team with another lady, and I think Floyd helps her with her cars. They may be together. I don't know.
Megan Davenport.
Yes,
yeah,
that's it.
she's
Thank
a driver too.
Yeah, she's a wheel woman.
She's a driver. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, he was. They were on a team together over at Spring X, and we was there helping her, hanging out.
Yeah.
Megan was. I think Floyd was there with Megan, and he was just working away.
Yeah. She'll get in there and work too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of good derby people down in Arkansas. You don't hear a lot about Arkansas in that one show a year or whatever,
Is that the old Razorback Rumble or something?
Yeah, it's Hot Springs Havoc.
Yeah.
And my buddy Jeff Palmer, he ran the show, did the show, and he had some surgery, had some illness. Jeff's been fighting, I think. I haven't talked to him in a while, but I've kind of kept up with his situation. And he was really leading the charge there. And if he hadn't got ill, there's no telling where Arkansas would be at right now.
Right.
Because there's some hard driving dudes down there.
Yes.
But my buddy Dustin Patton, he just passed away recently. And of just useless, senseless tragedy. But he was from down there in Mississippi, actually. I think he lived in Mississippi, but he grew up around the Arkansas area, from what I understand. There's just fantastic drivers and builders down there. Absolutely.
Yeah, Derby has definitely come a long way, hasn't it?
A long way.
And then there's times I feel like we're the enemy of our own sport.
You know, and I keep thinking, oh, we are. I remember days where I wished for these giant tracks and all these parts. And then now sometimes I'm like, I wish we should go back to the way it was when we didn't know no better.
Right.
You know?
It was definitely simpler.
But I thought we had reached the pinnacle and that nothing is going to change it. Nothing was going to evolve the sport. And then, boom, here comes MWFA. And
Yeah,
MWFA has...
that is put a breath of fresh air, I think, into the sport.
It has in my area. Now, I can't say for other areas that have larger derby followings, but for Western Kentucky, West Tennessee, it has, man, I mean, you were getting 7, 8 big cars at a show, maybe 2 little cars, and now you can go and you can have 20 or 30 most wanted. They're the feature. They're the show.
Yeah, see, with me being in Indiana, we've got Toast Promotions.
Oh, yeah.
Vince Olivas.
Yeah.
And he has that most wanted MWFA class.
Sure, yeah, he's good buddies with Sour.
Yep.
Toast is.
Yep, and he's usually got Nick King right there with him. That's
Uncle Nick.
Uncle Nick. You know, they've done a lot with that class in our area. Just because, Toast has it at all his shows, and
Yep.
he does all that point
Well, Nick
stuff.
actually, I don't know if you know this, Nick King actually wrote the original rules.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
He started it, and then Sour grabbed a hold of it and kind of ran with it.
Yeah, I've seen Nick post a few times on Facebook. It's like, hey, if you don't take my number off the bottom of your list of the rules, I'm going to start charging y'all.
Yeah,
for
I
answering
remember
questions.
seeing that, yeah. But he wrote a good set of rules, and I hear people a lot of times, I kind of took over, I guess accidentally became the leader of the MWFA charge in my area in West Kentucky, and I've kind of pushed, and so people call me now for questions, and they're like, man, we'd really like to see this, we'd really like to see that, and I'm like, I agree with you, but I'm telling you, if we do it, we're going to screw it up.
Yeah.
I don't like seeing the Dodge Durangos out there. The height is what worries me.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't like seeing that. I think, and there's a class for them where they're competitive.
Yeah,
so
we put them in the minivan SUV class.
yeah, but then there you go, minivans. They're, we don't want it to turn into a full-blown minivan show.
Yep.
But
There's a fine line there.
absolutely there is. And so people will call me and they say, well, we'd like to have 4-point cages, and I'm like, man, if that's what you need to do, go for it. But I said, you're not. You start changing it.
You're taking away from...
You evolve it at all.
Yeah,
That's what happens to everything else, right?
Yeah.
Every other class ever.
And I think you're taking away from the true grit feeling of the MWFA when you do a cage.
Well, and obviously I understand the dangers of not running a cage.
Oh, yeah.
But when I started, I didn't have a cage for 6-7 years.
So
8 years maybe.
When I started my hometown show, we were doing leaf spring conversions. That was back when that stuff started. So, I was in a sedan that was leaf sprung.
Yeah.
And we had a door bar or a dash bar,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was probably like a piece of 4-inch round pipe
Yep.
with some
Old
plates,
gas pipe or something.
with some plates welded on the end of it.
Oh, yeah.
And it had a plate on the outside. We had all thread bolted all in.
Yep.
And it had the same thing for a seat bar.
Yep.
There was no. It was a lot of years before we started putting down legs.
Sure. Yeah, even before you went past the 4-point cage.
Yeah.
It was a long time to get to the 4-point cage, but then to go past it. And I still see people that I question, especially in the Enduro Derby back home, they'll put a 4-point cage in the car and I'm like, good for you. Good job, buddy. And then they'll mount their roll bar to it. And I'm like, well, what's keeping that from going down?
Yeah.
If the car flips violently or has extra weight on it,
Yeah. If there's nothing down,
there's no down leg. There's no, or your roll bar or sidebars don't go to the floor. Now you're just attached to your roll bar to sheet metal.
well, and if you've got it attached to door pillars and stuff like that, that's going to hold a lot, right?
If you do that, but I'm saying they're not.
They're not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not doing that.
There's some people you look at them when they come through inspection from my years previous of promoting and whatnot, and then helping other people inspect. There's a lot you see roll through an inspection line that you're like, it'd be safer if I gave you a sawzall and you cut all this out.
Yeah, it would.
You'd probably survive better.
And that is something I used to be very anti leaving the stock tank in a car. I still am when it comes to racing.
I am not a stock tank.
When it comes to racing, with the bumpers to the derby and stuff, the bumpers falling off and that, you can't get stopped.
Right.
But now derbying, I've realized I feel like who knows if I'm right. Some of these people that are the weekend warrior fun guys, it's safer to not even let them touch the fuel lines.
Yeah, because they don't know what they're doing.
They don't have
Those
no
are the
idea what
guys that
they're
come
doing.
in with a single hose clamp holding
Yeah,
with rubber
60
hose.
pounds of pressure.
Yeah, 15-pound fuel hose trying to hold 60 pounds of fuel injection hose.
Yeah.
Pressure. Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, and I mean, you look at the most wanted class all over the country. I mean, you know, stuff's going to happen. It's uncontrollable. Things are going to happen. But I definitely, that's cut down on the time of the building. Just move the battery and roll with it.
Yeah, that was one of the big feats we had with our small cars back years ago, was you'd have guys that didn't want to move the fuel tanks.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it depends on where it's at. If it's in front of the rear axle, it's okay. If it's behind, it's got to be moved.
Well, then you get to the Crown Vic. You know, it's 3/4 in front of the rear axle and 25% behind the rear axle.
Yeah, so it's one of them where I've always been, look, move it. If you need help getting it moved correctly, let me know.
Well, I see guys move it and then they ratchet strap their fuel cell in and stuff. I'm like, dude, where's the bolts, man? Bolt the dude down to the cage.
Yo,
And I'm not a big fan of seeing them bolted into the sheet metal anyway. I don't like seeing them bolted to the floorboard or, you know, I'm not. But there's been so much crazy. I've seen 2x4s used for door bars, you know.
yeah.
I mean, fence posts.
that we've all seen, yeah, especially you start
I've
traveling.
seen a roll cage out of exhaust tubing once.
Yeah,
Yeah.
swing set pipe.
Swing set pipe, yeah. And they, I don't even know how they welded it.
Right. We've seen shows where when they put a door bar, they just take and pry open the inner and outer door skins and just shove something down in at an angle. And then they have it leave, you know, this far out, and they just strap it to the post.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you doing?
I know.
Yeah, it's street sign post.
But, you know, you got to be thankful that at least they're coming into the sport. At
Yeah.
least they're getting into the
But
sport.
it's one of those where it's like, if you need help, I'd rather you call and ask
Yeah,
than take a chance to get to hurt.
for sure. Yeah.
Well,
Somebody's always wanted to help,
yeah,
you know.
I think we probably shut this one down.
I think we probably covered it all, hadn't we?
Yeah, we've solved at least 3 world's problems.
And like I said, pilots always suck.
Yeah,
Any TV, you go watch, Dukes of Hazzard, one of the greatest TV shows in the world, you go watch it, the pilot probably sucks.
yeah, but you'd still watch it today if it came on.
Well, who wouldn't? Daisy Duke, man.
Thank God for short blue jeans.
Hey, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.